I have to ask when it comes to what you're seeing now, because I like to brag. I like to brag about the market structure disappears within 3-4 weeks. Would you say that that is the case for you, or not really?
Um,
All right. Good morning, Leo.
Hello, good morning, my
How,
Swedish friend.
how are you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Been a busy week,
Nice.
and it adds up quickly
Yeah.
when you're busy with life and then studying and then
Yep.
everything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's challenging but rewarding,
Mm.
and yeah, every day 1% better, 1% increase,
Yes,
1%
sir.
progress. So even if I don't have the feeling that I'm always progressing, uh, of course, well, if I work every day,
Mm.
I will progress every day. But now, like I told you last week, I hit a wall,
Yep. Yep.
and it's what I've been thinking is I've been testing now, back testing now.
Mm.
Perhaps I should be forward testing a little bit
Right.
to be able to feel the difference,
Mm.
because everything is clear in hindsight, as we all know,
Yeah.
and perhaps that can unblock a bit my encounter with the wall. But
Got it. Yep.
anyway,
Yep.
I'm a happy camper.
Happy camper. Happy camper. All right, man. Good. Good. Good to hear your voice again. A lot of people seem to really enjoy the chats. I don't think they enjoy me too much, but rather what you have to say is is what it sounds like. No, but we've gotten some really good feedback on just having this conversation, right? And people have to understand that, of course, it's different to see something like this in this, so to say, industry when it's about essentially drip feeding, almost giving everything, um, making sure people are dependent on some mentor, right? And now they
Yeah.
get to see the full transparency of what is happening in someone's mind when they go through the 6 week program, for example, or go through this sort of information, even if they're watching YouTube, which would, as we mentioned in last week, it would take years to figure these things out. I was just lucky enough to find them pretty fast. And then I'm able to share it with other people that are like minded. But the whole point about this conversation is to get that transparency of what is actually happening in someone's mind as they go through the 6 week program. And for you guys that don't know, Leo won a giveaway on Twitter, on my X, where I gave out 5 free spots for the 6 week program, and he wanted to, and I suggested that we should hold a conversational chat about the problems, about what he's seeing, instead of just having it on DMs or in the Q&As, which he's also part of. But that's essentially that, right? So a bit more about week 3. What was your experience so far? It's advanced sequences, right?
Yeah. Um, well, it fits perfectly with week 2. It makes sense. It's logical. The information that you provide in week 3, on top of the base, is what we learned until then. Um, and I it's actually quite it's not too much information, because perhaps people might think that in 6 weeks there's a lot of information that has to be condensed um, to be able to get through those 6 weeks. But it's light, if I might call it like that.
Yeah.
The quantity of information. I've only got a couple of pages of notes.
Yeah.
But as last week, where the other side of the coin, so to say, is in applying that information. And I have the feeling that it will be for the whole 6 weeks like this, is you add each week a layer on top of the previous one. But even if it's not like I don't know 100 pages of theory, it's comprehending and seeing what you're trying to teach with that information, and applying to the charts. That is the tricky part.
Yeah.
It's how should I say? Instead of a lot of hours studying a lot of theory, it is a bit of theory and going full on 100%, applying or trying to apply it on the charts.
Yeah.
That is basically the how should I say, the feeling that I have, because there are just that amount of videos, and as you say repeatedly, is at some point the information has to stop.
Yeah.
You're not changing your system, you're not adding new stuff. It's the information is what it is. You just cut it in a few pieces, so to say, to be able to digest easily. And the theory, as always, I get. Now, applying that visually on the charts, I'm becoming better. I'm still too slow in the, in the context of you giving us homework like 300 sequences, 500, 1,000 sequences.
Yeah.
And I'm still a bit slow because I'm trying to apply what you told me last week to take a bit of distance and loosely start to draw out the sequences. But I start out like that, but before I realize, I'm already seeing, oh yeah, but there's a sequence in another sequence. I have to map that out as well. And how many candles? Seven candles? Oh, that's an ISS. Okay, next one. Oh, but that's a smaller sequence in the sequence. How many candles?
Yeah.
2. Oh, that's for the tick chart. So I need to mark it as a tick chart color. And and I'm already back into building or recognizing sequences in sequences in sequences.
Yeah.
And that is going very well. But my it's not a worry or a doubt. I don't know how to describe it, but I don't know if I will be able to apply it like that in real time.
Yeah, I get it.
Charts,
Yeah, I would say when it comes to the perspective that I have on the entire 6-week program, and as you and I chatted about, I think it's very important that you take it as it's meant to be, and I can sort of, as you are moving, right? If you're a moving car, if you move ahead, it's way easier for me to sort of guide you towards the left side or the right side. It's very hard to steer a car if it's standing still, right? You're not going to move anywhere. So you have to move in different directions. And what is going to happen over these 6 weeks, again, it's, as you mentioned, these layers that are being built on top. Is that new information? No, it's the same information, but in a deeper manner. It's the same information in the question of why. So I'm essentially just boiling down the why enough into getting the full-on perspective on the system. And when it comes to applying it to a market, in the market, which is definitely the harder part, right? We have to be we have to know that, right? The hard part is applying it to the market in real time. That is very hard in comparison to actually getting in and taking in all the knowledge that I'm building in the 6-week program, so to say. So over these 6 weeks, you will essentially expand on your knowledge. It will expand incrementally. So it will get more and more information. And for example, in comparison, in week 2, you didn't think as much in these multi-time frame sequences. But as you progress, now your mind is automatically starting to think, oh, but this might be, oh, but this might be, oh, but this might be, right? And then you go, why? And then you actually start to think, right? Why? Oh, 7 candles. Oh, okay. Interesting. But then this, okay. So do you see how you're almost a scientist at that point? And I usually tell everybody in that are studying the shade show model that you are just becoming a scientist of the market. It's a bunch of questions, hypothesis, right? It's a bunch of these scenarios that outweigh one another. And that is the thought of probability, right? The probability in the market, to understand what probability side am I on. And to understand that, you have to be able to discuss with yourself what is with me and what is against me. And that is what you're doing, but in other words, right? Oh, but this smaller one in here, which means that and that. So now you are slowly, right? You're building from, as I mentioned to you, over time, your mind, since I sort of know you by now, your mind will be able to be applied on the market in a really efficient way. And that's pretty predictable for somebody that created the system. But in the same manner, you have to start out with simplicity in your mind. It doesn't have to be extremely detailed in the beginning, because over time, you will automatically be forced. Your mind will automatically end up in that creative mindset where you go, oh, but this is here. Oh, but then this would be here. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't, you don't have to force that upon yourself. That's automatically going to add on top of what you already know. And that is what is beautiful with these 6 weeks. And it's built up like that for a reason, to not confuse you in the beginning, get the foundation going, and then over time, you will add more things of more why from the basics, which will basically expand your knowledge base, expand your probability view set on the market as a clean chart, and actually starting to read price for what it is.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's all thanks to training, basically, what you mean. It will become automatically like that. Seeing the market like that will become a natural way of trading and reading the market, because of the layers you add on top of it, which comprise mostly out of training, so without forcing it. That is perhaps also your style of teaching. Isn't we already discussed about or talked about this? Isn't the classical style of teaching, and perhaps my subconscious is waiting for but I still need to know where I need to get in, where I need to get out, and stuff like that. Perhaps, I don't know, it's just now that we are talking about it, perhaps it might be stuff like that makes me doubt if I'm actually doing a good job or not. But
I mean, it is different, right? It is really different. So, and I'm teaching the way that my mind would what would fit my mind, even though it's different. But you have to understand that before I started to understand how the market moves for myself, based on what I know, people told me that it was just wrong, right? That's not how it's supposed to be. But clearly at this stage, everybody that knows me knows that I don't give a shit about people who think I'm wrong, right? It's come to that point where I don't have time. I have so much to do, and I'm extremely blessed to be in that situation. But I have so much to do that I don't have time to think about what people think about me, so to say. But I'm teaching in the manner that past Jay wish it was taught, right? With no limitations, with no this and that, no right or wrong. And as you might have seen, I don't know how many rules have you, and we can actually go through that. How many rules based on that this is different? How many rules have I ever mentioned really to you by the time of week 3?
One.
Yeah.
Because I actually, perhaps in the beginning I would have said I said it more than one, but now with all the information that we've gone through, there's actually basically one rule, and that's the number 2.
Yeah.
How and when and why it's created, that is not the rule. It's just the market that does it. So it's not even a rule. It's a basis point of your theory, so to say. Um, can you call the amount of candles that a shit show sequence consists of, an ISS sequence consists of, and a CBC and etc., the amount of candles, for example, can you call that a rule?
Yeah, it's that rule was created based on one of the guys in the focus group right now, extremely objective trader, extremely, right? It's people that think that objectivity or rule-based trading is something that you need, and it's something that's the only thing that works, and that's just really not the case. That's a belief system that's the only thing that works. That's just clearly not the case. But that rule was based around a guy in the focus group who was extremely objective. He needed to see everything in a very objective manner. See, I have students like, I would say that you are more of a, right now, you're right in between subjectivity and objectivity. I have people that are extremely subjective and don't give a shit about objectivity. And then I have people that are extremely objective and they really don't like subjectivity. But over time, they have to work across platforms, right? So they have to work on the other side. And so with this guy, he was like, I don't know which one is which, right? There was just sequences everywhere, but he couldn't define what was the, so to say, shit show level. Not the ISS level, not the CBC, right? None of those things, but rather he couldn't understand where the shit show is located at. And this shit show level, so to say, is when I was like, all right, well, let me create some sort of rule to actually be able to teach it to you. And it's an objective rule, but if you look at the amount of candles that I'm speaking about in those, it's essentially, it's not a hard rule. It's just, this is usually what it looks like. This is usually the amount of candles. There's no like 10 and only 10. No. It doesn't work like that. Why? Because the market is ever changing. There's not once in all of eternity, for everybody listening right now, not once has your setup in your own system, it doesn't have to be the shit show model, but in your system has never looked the same, ever, and will never look the same. Therefore, objectivity can't be too objective. It needs to be sort of loose. And this is what I mean with this, so to say, rule. It's not a rule and a fact. It's just to get you going in your subjectivity thinking of what does a shit show level look, what does a shit show sequence look like? What does an ISS sequence look like? And there are times when there is, 7 candles, but it looks exactly like a, so to say, shit show sequence, not the ISS. Yes. Even though it's less than 10 candles, and you will still say, but it really looks like a shit show. But that doesn't fit with those rules, Jay. Yeah, but those are just to get your perspective on what do they sort of look like. And over time, then you will, and I have done this multiple times for the focus group. Now everybody knows it. But in the beginning, they didn't know what they look like. And after about a month or so, they went, I could just circle, what is this? And everybody was right, shit show level. What is this? ISS level. What is this? And then people got quiet because it was, I don't know what is actually, it's like, I don't know, right in between. Okay, but how do you know? Because that's still 10 candles. Yeah, but it doesn't look too good. Okay, so it doesn't look good even though it's fitting the rules. Yeah. Okay, why doesn't it look good? No, it just doesn't. Bang. Subjectivity. Right? Right there.
That's a question I had last week before the Q&A that I wanted to ask you. If it just falls in between the amounts that you've given. Before I was able to ask the question, you already answered it to someone else.
Yeah.
um, saying talking about the subjectiveness and what does it look like to you, you know? So that was basically the answer to my question, and that helped me a lot actually,
Yeah.
because if I'm not mistaken, I haven't learned about CBCs yet, but
Yep.
that's the only one that's specifically 3 candles, right?
That one is only objective. That's the only thing that is clearly objective, right?
Okay, so you have one rule. Okay,
That is
wow.
essentially that one rule for the amount of candles, so to say. Yeah,
Yeah,
CBCs.
yeah,
But that will be ran over in week 6 later on. But
yeah.
and,
Really,
and it's gonna be like a clear video because how week 3 works is this is usually the week where people get a lot of questions as well, a lot of them, because I explain everything in a very bad manner. In reality, I really do, and the reason why I'm not going into detail on everything like I did in week 1 or week 2 is because you need to understand the entire concept, all the small details, sort of, just have heard the name before when you go into week 4. Because week 4 is about numbers characteristics. So you need to understand the numbers within the numbers within the numbers, what they do, how they act, and you will see exactly what I mean in week 4. And now in week 4, week 3 will make so much more sense to you why I had to go over them. And then in week 5, we start to apply week 3, but in a good manner, right? Because you needed week 4 to understand week 3, right? And you needed week 3 to understand week 4. And then everything is tied together in week 5. And then you're adding the entries and all of that in week 6. So it's that hard balance of you need to understand things enough to actually understand week 4. But I don't want to explain everything immediately because that's going to completely mess up your brain. And that's why I had to thoroughly explain it in week 3. And that's why I'm getting a lot of questions in week 3. So week 1, 2, 3, build up the questions. Week 4 basically answers a lot of them. Week 5 answers the rest of them. Week 6 entries. And then you're sort of done. And that's why you don't see too many questions in week 4 and 5, right? And you've seen the Q&A session. There's very few amount of questions in week 4 and 5, but a lot of them in 1, 2, 3, right? So that's basically how that works. I have to ask, when it comes to what you're seeing now, because I like to brag. I like to brag about the market structure disappears within 3-4 weeks. Would you say that is the case for you or not really?
Yeah, it was already last week, and it's still the case.
Yeah.
Because it's on such a small time frame. Somebody asked you last week if you still use, a new person I think in the group asked you if you still use the higher time frame POIs, like daily and weekly and so on. And
Yeah.
of course you don't use that anymore. And at that point I was thinking, yeah, but it can be handy to know where is your daily and weekly. But then after a while, when I went back into the exercise, I realized that it might be interesting to know, but it doesn't have any added value.
Yeah.
Because we are operating on maximum 1 minute.
Yeah.
And generally on 15 seconds, as the mother of all time frames, as you call it.
Yeah.
So even if price would bounce off of a daily or weekly or monthly level, while it would be concise with our strategy anyway, because we would have got now before or we wouldn't have gotten we would have gotten the confirmation already before where
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
with this system. So it's not that the Sitio model covers that. It's just that it's on such a small time frame that it's not even necessary anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's people,
We
to interrupt you. It's, when you hit, for example, a higher time frame 2, the smaller time frames can still keep on going higher. The smaller sequences can keep on playing up. So, but if the higher time frame would be in the manner of, as soon as we sweep it, we now completely change direction. Yeah, I would probably use the higher time frame, but that's just not the case. There will be maybe 4 sequences before we start to move and turn around from the higher time frame. And suddenly, are you just going to sit there and have your biggest stop of your entire life? Or are you going to wait for that confirmation to go lower? But as you're going up, sequences are playing up to the upside. Just take them to the upside and then take it to the downside as well. But just take smaller scalps on it, right? And that's what I mean with that the high time frames don't matter to me, right? I can understand why people trade the high time frames, because they can take a trade, set and forget, and that's not something, that's actually the worst thing you can do as a developing trader. Set and forget. You're a dumbass if you think that's the way to go in reality, because you have to sit there and understand what is happening. You have to learn, right, what is happening. So people that think that set and forget is something that will get them profitable, no, absolutely not. You're going to set it and you're going to freaking watch it and never forget it and note everything down. So high time frames on the so to say 1 minute, it might still be sequences going up higher. You can trade those to the upside and then trade it to the downside as well. And before the high time frame move has even started, you've made the money that you would have made from the higher time frame move anyways. So sorry to interrupt. I just had to add that. Continue. Sorry.
no. That makes sense. Well, just adding on to that is, I think it's a bit early, but I, st- I've tried to have 2, 3, or even 4 charts open at the same time. Like divide chart in 4 and have a different time frame on each, just to follow a little bit how price is developing.
Right.
Not trading, just to watch the market and see how, with what you're teaching us, how it actually visually um, comes to the chart, to say it like that.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know if it's normal that it's early, but I'm between 15 seconds and 1 minute. I got it. I have it down. But 5 seconds, 1 second, and even tick charts, that is still a bit, I think, too early.
Yeah.
I still can't see the. I see it too late. Of course, I
Yeah.
see it, but already when there are a few sequences have passed, then I can see. Oh yeah, that's where it had got the confirmation, or that's why there was a failed 2 and turned around again. And but I still can't see it in real time.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, these things come along in week 5 with multi time frame sequences, right? Even before you can get to that stage, right? Because as you said, one of the problems in the beginning is, so to say, I'm too slow, right? I'm too slow to understand something, which is completely reasonable because you've just been here for 3 weeks. Imagine that, right? And what is happening in multi-time frame sequences is tied to week 4, which is numbers characteristics. So how will you know everything at the same time, essentially, if you don't understand everything that is going on, right? It's at that point, it's impossible. So the knowledge base that you have right now is not enough to trade the extreme small probabilities. Can you still be profitable with what you've gotten from week 1, 2, and 3? Absolutely. Absolutely. But the extreme RR trades, extreme understanding of the market comes into play from week 4 and week 5. And that's when everything starts to be a completely mind-blowing situation, because now you will know every single move before it happens and you will start to predict the future, right? So week 4 and week 5 is extremely powerful when it comes to those things.
Can't wait. It's definitely a very interesting journey, and throwing everything out, all those thousands of indicators and things that we can use, add-ons and whatnot.
Mm.
We don't. The fact that we don't need that is very liberating.
Yeah.
It's even after 3 weeks, I'm still not 100% used to it. I think it's because it's so light, you know.
Yeah.
And even so, I always had an alert in my calendar for the London session, the New York session,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I'm not trading with it, but I've thrown everything out already, because even if I'm in front of the charts at 7 in the morning, I can trade. I don't have to wait for the London Open, or even at night, 1 or 2 in the morning or something, Asia session.
Mm.
Even if there's a bit of less liquidity, as they say, there are still sequences.
Mm.
So that is very yeah interesting for me to learn, and it gives me a lot of uh, how do you say? I was about to say it in Spanish. uh, a lot of energy to to um, to go through with this.
Mm.
I had a few moments that I said, "Oh, come on, man, don't become negative now," or
Yeah.
because I always want to go faster uh, than my shadow.
Yeah.
But I have to learn to take it one step at a time. And but you go fast sometimes. Do you realize? In Q and A's, you are
Going fast.
obviously you're used to it. You already see 50 sequences before we've seen only one, you
Yeah.
know, and you've marked them out and everything. And when you go,
Yeah.
when you take an example and you start drawing on the charts,
Yeah.
I'm still with the first one, but you already have done 5.
Yeah. I
So
mean, I mean that comes with practice, and I guess that I'm trying to satisfy as many as possible when it comes to examples, right? And when I get also too excited when it comes to these things. I tend to be very excited when I get a question and my brain just turns on and sees something, and I need to explain it very thoroughly, right? It's going up to the extreme, right? So now I'll read everything up and down, and that's usually how my brain functions in the live scenario, right? When I have sequences that haven't even played out yet, 5 of them in different directions. And I mean that's something that I have to of course filter, and something that I'm trying my best to let everyone know. If I go too fast, let me know. I don't know unless you tell me, right? People are for some reason afraid of, and I think it's not their fault, it's actually other mentors' fault. People are too afraid to just tell the mentor, hey man, you're going too fast, I don't understand what you mean. And it's like, if the mentor at that point gets mad or whatnot, right? Because students like yourself think that I'm going too fast, then he's just not meant to be a mentor, right? He also has a pretty small mind if that is the case. Because, I mean, you're there to teach people, you're there to help and guide people. And if you're just getting things over with, then that's not the case, right? And it's usually like that. When I tell my wife, right, that okay, I'm gonna hold a live with the 6-week program Wednesday for an hour. She looks at me and she goes, Jay, you always say an hour, but it's majority of the times more than 2. So, I mean, and that's what I mean, because I'm here to sacrifice my time, right, to help other people, and I do that out of passion. And I wouldn't sit there for 2 hours when I've scheduled 1 hour if it wasn't out of passion, because I want to make sure everybody gets their question answered. And
true.
that's what a mentor should do. So in the same manner, if I go too fast, people should just let me know. You're going too fast, I don't understand. Got it. Because I think you understand. And that
Yeah,
might
but
be,
it's not. It's
Yeah.
not the whole time, of course. It's
Yeah, of
just
course. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
a few moments you get in your trip
Yeah.
and you take off.
Yeah, it usually happens, right? And somebody has to stop me because that's not healthy. So I have no ego when it comes to those things, right? The way I'm teaching,
Yeah,
it might be wrong for a lot of people. And let me know if you don't understand the way I'm explaining things. You need to let me know so I can explain it from a different angle. And for example, when it comes to the amount of candles in the, so to say, sequences, right? To measure what is
mhm,
what, that's not something I ever thought of until a guy said, I don't know what the difference is. And I started to speak about it. And he said, I still don't understand. All right, let me do this. And I sat down for a day and I started to look at it. And the amount of candles in the sequences were actually built from the focus group in a back testing session.
that's amazing.
And that's what I mean. And now that's a rule for everyone, a perspective for everyone. And it's these things that, as a mentor, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to help in different manners, take different angles. It's not the student's fault that they don't understand. And if you think so, you're a dumbass. It's just, you're not meant to be a teacher. You have to be able to be so deep in your own knowledge, which you should be if you're profitable, that you have to be able to take it from different angles to explain to different types of individuals, right? As I mentioned, we have objectivity people and we have subjectivity people. Do you think I'm teaching the exact same way to every single one of them to understand in the same manner? No. I have to get different angles around their minds, right? So when you're a teacher, really, especially in the markets, you have to understand people. And that's, guess what? Why I make it so personal. I make it very, very personal in the teachings. Why? Because I need to understand what Leo is thinking, right? And after week 2's call, we sat for like 30 minutes, an hour added, just chatting about how everything is going in your mind and more personal stuff, right? And these things, and I was able to tell you, this is how your mind works. This is what you see. You have the same type of mind here. You have these problems. You have to analyze this. And how would I know from just 2 weeks? Well, because I'm working with people, right? I'm actually accounting for people. And the people that I see have the biggest problem, I note them down and I think of directions or angles I could take on their brain of understanding something. That is your job as a teacher, as a mentor in this industry. And that's why 99% of the teachers should not exist in this industry. Because they just don't care. And I
That is
would say,
also the reason why so many people are successful after 6 weeks with this model,
yeah.
because you take the time to know them.
I mean, people, and I usually say this as well, right? There are definitely better traders than me, like that I have never heard of. Absolutely, probably, or not. I don't know, right? But the question is that information transferable? Because not all information is, right? And that is
True.
something that is very important. Are you able to transfer that information? And number 2, is that information even transferable? Right? Because you can only do so much with your system to make it transferable until it becomes something completely different, right? You can change up multiple things to make it transferable, but then it's not going to be as powerful. The question is your system transferable into other people's minds? If it's not, you shouldn't be teaching that. And if you can't, as a teacher, transfer information from left to right, you shouldn't be teaching at all, or you have to practice. I was not the best at transferring information from the beginning. No, I had to learn how to transfer information. And a matter of fact, and everybody in the focus group can testify on this. They said that every single 6-week period, because I used to have the 6-week program in the focus group in the beginning, every single 6-week period became better and better and better. And I had 3 of them to teach people. And they were just like, every single set of 6 weeks became better and better. Why so? Not because I knew the information better, but because how I was able to transfer the information. And based around the last set, that's when everybody said that this is the best possible way. 6 weeks transferred right into the 6-week program in the same manner I did with the other students, and made it personal. I think that trading, and I don't know what you think, you're going to have to talk about that. I think that one of the major points about trading is you have to make it personal. If you're looking as a mentor to teach individuals how to operate the market from the you perspective and actually make independent traders, what would you say?
I can't speak for most of the teachers, of course, because we haven't been part of those of 99% of those programs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have perhaps paid tens of thousands of dollars to for all those courses. I know how these people work, but from the time I've been in this industry, I have known 0 people that approach this subject in the same way as you do. It's not to blow smoke up your ass. It's a fact. Most people don't have the time, or don't want to take time, or whatever, are not so good in time management, and they're just going through the information as quickly as possible to serve as many people as possible. But it's not as effective, because there's still, and I know from other people in other discourse as well, that they don't realize it often, but they when they talk about themselves and the journey, they already show or tell that they have been with this system, that strategy, then tried something else and tried to develop something on their own, and they didn't stick with one thing in particular and tried it out fully, because they didn't get the same attention and help as we get here. I mean, everybody can send you a DM and you will answer.
Yeah.
Even if it takes, I don't know, perhaps a couple of hours, but you will still answer.
Yeah.
And the fact that you are taking time with me, this much time, I can only say, well, I'm a lucky bastard. But I can also see when on Discord, for example, when you're in calls with other people, because it will show that you're in a do not disturb mode, and that is only when you're in a call with other people, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is something as the same as the Sitcho model itself. I've never seen it anywhere else. I've never been able to enjoy this particular type of being taught in this way. So it is, I can only be so lucky and grateful that, because this will change my way of trading. I don't know if I told you last week, but I'm finding joy again.
Yeah. You told me after the recording. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if it's not, I'm not taking any live trades at the moment, but just analyzing this way, learning this way, and just starting from scratch, basically. So it's really enjoyable.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, actually, like, training becomes fun again. It's not this mountain of information that's like, god dang, what a headache. All right, and you're telling your wife, all right, I'm just gonna sit here for 1 month and learn everything. That's just not how it goes anymore. It's just like, it becomes fun. You're studying the market, right? You're studying behavioral patterns in the market. That becomes fun, and it's not complicated, but it becomes fun testing. It's this angle, oh, but this, oh, that fit, oh, interesting. So that's how it goes, and that's what it should be. It should be fun to learn. And then when you have learned, that's the fun part. The boring part is just operating it later on. That becomes extremely boring. And that's when you know you find your thing, right? It becomes fun to test and work through things.
That's a good aspect, of course. when you're bored while trading, it means that you're doing a good job. But that's another that's another subject.
Yeah.
But yeah, I at this point I feel like, um, how could I say it? Like a baby. These toys for babies. They, I don't know if it's a ball or whatever, and they have holes in it. There are triangles, squares, and
Oh
rounds
yeah,
in
yeah,
it.
yep, yep.
And the baby needs to learn to match the form
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with the hole. Well, that's a bit like I feel a bit like this. I'm still taking baby steps
Yeah.
and trying. It's not going through. So
Yeah.
okay, I need to take another block.
Yeah.
This
Exactly.
this
Yeah.
might work.
Yeah.
And perhaps it's explained a little bit uh, infantile, or how do you say it? Childish.
Yeah.
But that,
But
that's
no,
that's
it's beautiful.
uh,
You're explaining it in a simple manner, and I like that, right? It's simple, right? You don't have 50,000 blocks. You have three, and there's three different perspectives to have,
exactly
and it's like, all right, I just have to fit them in the right piece at the right time, and I think that over time when it comes to speed, as you mentioned before, how fast you're going and you're able to identify things in real time. I think in addition, you're talking with somebody that created the entire thing from his own brain. Of course, I'm going to be quicker on it, right? And but over time, when you start to study it more and when you start to implement it more, the faster it goes. Every single day that you sit there, it just becomes faster and faster and faster and faster. And automatically, you can almost just, after some time, you can almost, after you've seen it so many times, when it comes to these blocks and into different holes, right? You can almost take the triangle and be like, I already know where this fits. So you can actually cover up your eyes and just have a feeling of where it should go.
yeah.
See what I mean? And that's the subjectivity. You already know. You've seen it so many times that you already know where that piece is going to go. So now you can shut your eyes and take the triangle. Oh, it's a triangle. I feel it in my hand, and I just put it right in there. And this is a circle. I put it right in here, right? And so on. And
I could
that,
see the matrix.
yeah, yeah, yeah. but that happens over time, right? When you start to implement it faster and move faster in reading price, and that happens on an automatic manner the more you do it. That's the fun
True.
part. The boring part
True.
is then taking the trades based on what you know, and now you're focused more on progress rather than how much money or how fast your car is, or how a good looking watch you have on your left wrist, right? Um, so
If you
that's
focus on R's, you don't need to focus on anything else, because the more R's you get, the more
yeah,
money you will get by
yeah.
consequence.
And when it comes to the R's, right? And since people are questioning at all times about that, the reason why I'm speaking on R's is because if somebody is risking $1 on a trade and makes 10 R's, and I risk $1,000 on a trade and looking to make $10,000 on a trade, the only difference between that is, guess what? Money, nothing else.
Yeah.
And I don't give a shit about if you're able to do it with $1, you can do it with 1,000.
But R's are far more neutral. That's what I like
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
The way you approach this. Um, I have to say, I'm not sure if I told you already, but for my upbringing, I've never had a good relationship with money. I was never taught to
mm,
have to see money in a good way.
yeah. Same here.
Rich people, they do this, or certainly they've stolen this or whatever.
Yeah, same here. Yeah,
Typically, I'm from Generation X, so my parents are boomers. So that generation by default, the
yeah,
majority
yeah,
saw money and rich people that way. And I had to learn myself little by little to, okay, but this is not the way we should approach money.
mm,
Money is just a tool. It's not, and even if there's still something stuck, perhaps in my subconscious, I don't know. But the fact that you don't talk about money, you talk about ours, that is so neutral and makes it so less imposing, fearful, or whatever feeling you might get when you think about money, if it would be negative. It strips it all away.
mm,
It just You just look at your R's, and all the rest will follow. But
Yeah, I mean, when
um,
and to that, people love to speak about, all right, these amount of, I just took a 200-point trade. Well, you had a 100-point stop. So
yeah,
I don't understand, how much money did you make on it, right? Now they're like, oh, I made $300 or $500 or something. All right, but I just traded for 4 minutes and made $3,000. But I traded for 3 minutes.
yeah,
You sat there
that's
for an hour.
yeah, yeah,
So
very
you
true.
see, it's that perspective on, and for me as well. People say don't focus too much about money, focus on the progress, but they never tell you how. Well, stop looking at your P&L, and I can guarantee you that the majority that are struggling in live trading with live accounts or prop firms, as soon as you're taking a trade and you make that win, or you take a trade and you make that loss, the first thing you look at is the P&L. Immediately, the
Yeah,
first thing you look at after taking a win or loss, you look at the P&L. You don't look at the trade. You don't keep on watching the trade. You don't see, okay, it's still continuing up, down, up, down. That's what I do. When I take a win, all right, interesting. It took that point. Let's see how it continues here or not. I don't even give a shit about how much I made or lost. I already knew that from the beginning. And all right, it went to target. Interesting. Let me see how it continues up here, or does it change direction? Was I looking? Did I take my stop out in the right manner? Did I take my profit before my take profit is taken? Because I usually, when the high probabilities are turning against me, and see, that's the perspective, right? You stop focusing too much on money. And people say that all the time and love to speak about it on X. Stop focus on money, focus on your progress. And I say that as well. But the difference between me and them, I focus on the R. And that's the solution. Focus on the R. Get rid of the P&L, get rid of the points. It doesn't matter, right? The only thing that it matters to is that whenever you're taking a trade, the only thing when points matter is when how big of a contract size you're going to use. That's the only thing that matters. And because I can still take a 10-hour trade in the Asia session, in the same manner
mhm,
I can take a 10-hour trade in the London session and New York session. So the only point that points actually matter is when you're taking your trade based on how big of a contract you're going to put on it.
yeah. And also, perhaps not everybody will agree, but if you depend on the amount of money you're making, that from in a way, that means that you don't have 100% faith in your system.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
if you can just, like you say, do it blindly, and you ask different questions and simply how much money it's making, it's at my position is at now. You're just looking at, okay, it made that move. What's it doing now? Or
Yeah.
instead of looking at the amount of money at your P&L, um, that means that in whatever type of market, you trust your system blindly because you have the luxury to think about other stuff while you're in a trade.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think, yeah, that's a good way to end it, isn't it?
Yeah,
Lovely way
get
to end
in,
it.
get
Yeah.
out, and get paid.
Yeah, that's how it goes, man. Hey, thank you again for yet another week. And it's
Thank you
been,
for your time, Jay, as
yeah,
always.
it's been a pleasure as always, and we'll continue on having this pleasure next week, right?
It's a deal.
Deal. All right, talk to you soon, Leo.
Okay, man. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.